want to have a little shout out to our Elon football team, because I do see some of them here. And congratulations on a win yesterday. It's great to be in the stadium. Sometimes in life, we want things and we really don't know the consequences of getting them. Case in point. When I was young, I said to my parents, I want an allowance, like my friends have an allowance. And they gave it to me. We were shopping in the supermarket this one day, and I said to my mother, can I get those animal crackers? She said, sure, you have an allowance now. Go buy them. In the past, she would have bought them for me. People who work in an office, they want a promotion. They want to become an office manager, maybe without realizing that when they do, they'll have to spend much more time at work doing paperwork, that it's going to be more than a 9-to-5 job. I know students sometimes would like a free day from class or a professor to cancel class. And then you're free. But come exam time, you say, I don't remember the professor teaching that. It was going to be taught on that day you got off. So you were responsible for it. We sometimes want something and we don't know the consequences. Just like the sons of thunder, as they were called, James and John in the gospel. They wanted to share in Christ's glory, but they didn't understand that that glory came at a price. At least it did for Jesus. Suffering, crucifixion, and death. They wanted glory without the consequences. And Jesus said, you know, if you want the glory, then you need to put your life in service of others. You need to live selflessly. We use the word service a lot, right? We use mass, you coming here, you're coming to a service. People who are in the military are in the service. Students are probably too young to understand this, but when I used to drive my car to get gasoline, it was called a service station. And an attendant actually came out and filled your car with gas and lifted up the hood, checked the oil, and washed your windows. It was a place for service. It was great. You go out to eat. I was out the other night for my birthday, and it was a wine and food pairing dinner in Greensboro with some friends who I'd met at a wine tasting. The food was delicious, the wine was delicious, but what made the evening was the service. We were treated well. Water glasses were filled, bread baskets were filled constantly. People who deliver your mail, postal service. People who collect your taxes, IRS, Internal Revenue Service. People who talk about the weather, National Weather Service. People who protect the Pope, the President, the Secret Service. We use a lot about service, and service could be a paid position, but for disciples, it's not paid. It is a way of life. Discipleship means service. I heard a story once about a monk who was walking around somewhere wherever he lived, and he looked down and he found this precious gem. And he was so happy to have this very precious jewel in his hands. And as he continued his walk, he saw a poor beggar. And he felt so guilty that he had this precious gem that he gave it to the poor beggar. And he went on his way. The poor beggar was obviously beside himself, so happy to have this very precious jewel. But then he started to thinking, and he went back after the monk. He said, I want something more precious. And the monk said, I gave you the most precious thing I had, that gem. The poor man said, no, I want what inspired you to give me the gem. That's much more precious. My brothers and sisters, what inspired that monk to give him the gem was faith. Faith lived out in love. October 11th, last Thursday, we actually inaugurated a year of faith. A year of faith that the Holy Father asks us to look back on our beliefs, our system of creedal system, and say, how does it fit in with my daily life of service as a disciple? Having faith and saying we have faith is great. How do we live it on a day-to-day basis? Last night, my friars in my house took me out to dinner to celebrate my 57th birthday. And we sat down at Pragos at a table, and all of a sudden, I looked across the room, and there was the mother of one of our graduates. Gone, he's no longer here. Dan Glass, you remember. Mary Ann Glass was sitting across the room, and I went up to her and I said, "What are you doing here? Dan's not here, right?" Dan had become a lay missionary in South Sudan. I didn't believe it was a coincidence because when I came back to my room that night, I got onto his blog and I saw that he had written something specifically for today. And after reading part of it, I knew I had to share some of it at Mass today. Some of it. He said, even though my job title would be Catholic missionary, I don't think Mission Sunday is really talking specifically about people in South Sudan or even those people described as missionaries in the U.S. I think it is talking about every person who believes in Christ. Every human has a mission, and thus every person is a missionary. It is extremely important to find your mission in life. Christ called us to serve, not necessarily overseas or with an official organization, but he called us to serve our brothers and sisters as our community. It is tough to call ourselves Christians if we are not living and working for a mission to serve others and to extend his kingdom in the place we are at. The dangling preposition killed me, but I let it be. Pray about your mission. If someone asks you what makes you a Catholic Christian, and your best answer is, because I go to church on Sunday, or because I believe in Jesus, it's not enough. Find your mission. Those are both extremely important things, and yes, our unified belief in Jesus does make us Christian, but it's like asking, what makes you American? And answering, I was born there, when there are infinitely many more answers. Our faith needs to be more than the technicalities. Our faith needs to be a lifelong passion or mission, something that draws us and others closer to Christ. He quotes Father Pedro Arrupe, Jesuit. Nothing is more practical than finding God, that is, falling in love in a quite absolute and final way. What you are in love with, what seizes your imagination, will affect everything you do. It will decide what you will get out of bed in the morning, when you will get out of bed in the morning, what you will do with your evenings, how you will spend your weekends, what you will read, who you know, what breaks your heart, what amazes you with joy and gratitude. Fall in love, stay in love, and it will decide everything. So on this Mission Sunday, Dan says, find your mission, fall in love with it, and live it every day. P.S. An extra prayer for missionaries in South Sudan is also greatly needed today. Find your mission. It is a year of faith. It is one thing to believe. It is another thing to live our lives of faith in service of one another. When we can live each day selflessly rather than selfishly, we become those disciples that Jesus asks us.